So hey guys, in this video I have collaborated with Rachit for 3 mock interview rounds. Number 1, behavioral questions or behavioral interview round with ex Microsoft software engineer, then coding interview round with ex Microsoft software engineer, and number 3, most importantly, Google interview round with Rachit. So all the timestamps will be in description below. So let's get started. So hi Rachit, can you please tell me something about yourself?
Sure. Hey man. Hi Anuj. I'm really happy to be here. Right now it's like 8 a.m. in India, and I'm really happy that this day is going phenomenal. I have woken up really like early as compared to my normal routine. Really excited, pumped up with energy, super excited to be here. And a little introduction about me. Like I graduated in 2017 from IIT Roorkee, and I started my career as a software developer at Microsoft. And then I had shifted back to my hometown, which is in Gurgaon, and have been working with Tower Research, which is a high frequency trading firm. I have overall around 4 years of experience, and I have a programming YouTube channel, which is all about data structures, algorithms, coding interviews, and software engineering. So if this is something that passionates you or you are like really passionate about, then definitely make sure that you check it out.
So this time I am personally taking an interview of an ex Microsoft software engineer, but next time he will be taking my interview as an Android developer. So stay tuned for that, and the link will be in the description below. So starting with the behavior round of this interview. So have you ever dealt with someone or your colleague or a friend who was very angry in your team, and how did you deal with it? It could be in a programming situation or like in software engineering world or even outside. So you can pick any example.
Right. I did have few experiences, and I would prefer that since it's online YouTube video, I would want to talk about my experiences from my past firms. So I'll be picking Microsoft here. Uh, I remember distinctly that it was around 4 or 5 months that I had, like I started with my job at Microsoft. And at that point of time, I had one of my colleagues uh, who really got, a bit upset about when I was conversing, like when I was having a conversation with her, she really got upset. And like there was a bit of weird vibe which was developed, but that kept on growing for the next 1 or 2 days until it got to a point that she really got annoyed. And we were in a difficult situation at that point of time if you're talking about a workplace. So being the good gentleman that I am, I offered an apology, and I said that I'm really sorry for what happened and I want to make things right going forward. But what happened was that she was not ready, or she was not in that mindset to let things go. And there are different people who have different threshold of patience. So basically at that point of time, I realized that she's not in the mindset of making things work. But I really did not know what choice I had, because when you get in a fight, I mean, when you get in a kind of difficult situation like this, I'm definitely sure that there is no definite right or wrong thing. So there are some things which you might have said, some things that they might have said. And at that point of time, I think the only way to move forward healthy in a healthy way is when both of you reach that mindset when you want to make things work. So I realized that she still needs more time in that, but I was really, I didn't know what I can do, and I really wanted to make things right. So at that point of time, I took an advice from my mentor, and they had around like 10 years of experience, and I really loved that how they explain, and I really learned a good lesson that day. They told me that when you are in a business workplace, of course it's a good thing that you are trying to create that first step, or you are reaching out to her for making things right. But at the same time, you also have to understand if the other person is not is not is not there, or they are having a different mindset right now. It's it's actually better to not let that affect your personal uh, momentum, and you should keep your calm. So basically have only business transactions with them, and that's the term they called that day. Like when you're working with them, stay really professional, and if they're doing great, just be happy for them. And otherwise, do not keep any grudge for this, because you reached out, you did the good thing, it's good, and things will be fine someday. And actually, I remember that after 4 or 5 months, we used to laugh at this story together, because she became like I and her became really good friends, and we used to hang out a lot at Microsoft Office.
Quite interesting, and you answered it pretty well with the star technique. Yeah, so awesome. Now let's move on with the technical interview round. So I really want to know that what kind of design patterns you have worked on. For example, in my team, I'm looking for a candidate who has some sort of experience with observer design pattern. Have you heard about that as well?
Yeah, right. So I feel that if you have some experience, then you definitely would have checked out these design patterns. There are also like so many trainings happening in workplaces these days. So of course, I have done many trainings as well as I've actually seen real life code that talks about design patterns. So I mean, I can take a lot of examples. For example, lately I have been also working on JavaScript a lot, and it has some great implementations of design patterns. For example, if you talk about something as simple as observer design pattern, right? So when you talk about HTML JavaScript, right, when you click on a button, that's a click listener, right? And you how it works in JavaScript is you add an event listener and you pass in a callback function that will be triggered when the button is clicked, right? So these are nothing but observer patterns. And you one thing that I have realized is when you initially start, like when software developers start with design patterns, they all go through these huge tutorials and get, okay, so you have to like memorize it and understand it. But in reality, when you are actually even talking about whatever language that you're working with, you can see enough examples, and that's what exactly I'm explaining right now. So that's one example. Like JavaScript is heavily based on observer patterns. And let me think more. For example, yeah, even when you are working as a backend developer, you must have worked with Node.js and Express.js, right? So in that, how middleware works, it's exactly similar to chain of responsibility. Like you can add authentication middlewares, authorization middlewares, and then you can have a chain of middlewares. And what exactly is happening is when you get a request, they have to pass through these middlewares, and the middleware has to decide what they want to do with it. And if they want to basically give it an access, they pass it to the next middleware. And this is exactly what's happening in chain of responsibility design pattern. So yeah, these are few examples. Do you want me to talk more?
Now I have a coding problem for you. So here's the question. To be honest, this is one of the most popular question that I have been asked in my personal coding interviews 3 to 4 times as well. So go ahead.
All right. So, given a balance, and I love that it's a straight screenshot from lead code because that's how it really works in coding interviews as well. So, given a balanced parenthesis string S, compute the score of the string based on the following rule. So, empty parentheses have a score of 1, and if A and B are balanced parenthesis strings, and if you concatenate them, the score is the sum of them. And if you enclose an existing parenthesis string with a opening and closing bracket, the score doubles. All right, and you have to return the whole score of the string. Cool.
Correct.
All right. So basically, if I have something like, and I will. So if you have some input as like this,
Mhm.
the score of this will be nothing but I think the score of this plus the score of this, right?
That's correct. Yep.
So this means the score of that becomes 2 plus 1 equal to
That's
3.
correct. Three. Yes. So if you like, I can give you more test cases as well. So can you guess what could be the output of this input?
Yeah, so for this it will become 2 times the score of this, right? 2 times the score of this, which becomes nothing but this becomes 1 plus this becomes, as we have seen, 2.
Hmm.
So this will become 6.
Correct. That's correct. So
Awesome.
yeah. Mhm.
So
So
basically we have to do this function get score. You have a string s as
mhm,
an input.
mhm.
Makes sense, right?
Yep.
All right.
So what programming language you're planning to use for this problem, and
So
what's
I'm
your?
comfortable with JavaScript, Python, and C++. Which one do you want me to use?
You can choose either. It doesn't matter.
All right. So I'm writing in C++.
Sure.
All right. So how this is going to look is I think it's quite straightforward that for every opening bracket, we can find the index of its closing bracket in order in time.
Hmm.
And let's say I do that correctly, then what I'm thinking is like for my starting bracket, I can always find where it's ending now in order one time because I have done that pre-processing.
Hmm.
So in order one time, I will find where my current bracket ends. If it ends at the end of the string, I'm going to find the score of the remaining substring and then just double it and return that.
Okay, you can try that.
Otherwise, if it ends in between, I'm going to find the score of two sequences and then return the sum of both of them.
Yes, that sounds right.
So do you want me to start with the implementation for that?
Yeah, start with that. Yep. Mhm.
All right. So let's say we have something like a stack of characters, or wait, let's call indexes,
Mhm.
and the stack is st. Now for char c in my string,
Mhm.
what I'm going to do is actually let me do it this way because I'm going to need the index as well.
Mhm.
So I'm computing the size. I'm running a for loop. I'm going to iterate on each character. Current character is s of I,
Mhm.
and if current character, and let's call this cur. So
Mhm.
if your current character is an opening bracket,
Mhm.
then basically what you do is you push the current index to the stack.
Mhm.
Else, and I'm assuming the string is only consisting of opening and closing parentheses, right?
Correct. Only one kind of parentheses. So you don't need to worry about square parentheses or arrow parentheses. Only
Yeah,
one.
right. Awesome. So, so if it's an opening bracket, we push that to the stack. Else, what we are going to do is, yeah. So else, we know that the last bracket which we had pushed to the stack, that is ending now, right?
Mhm.
So what I can do is I can pop the index. So int x equal st dot pop.
Mhm.
So I'm popping my stack and I'm mapping that this particular index right now. So basically end of x is going to give me for every index where is its relevant ending bracket.
Yes. Mhm. That makes sense.
So we have an int array
Mhm.
and this n is huge, let's say 26. So I've done the pre-processing that I need, and just give me a second. I'll just make sure that it's going to work.
Mhm.
So if I have an opening bracket, I push that to stack. Otherwise, I pop it and I make sure that this is where it ends. Yeah. Yeah. And I think the again one important clarifying question is whether the input string is always balanced, because if it's not the case, it might happen that at this point of time the stack is empty over here, and it can lead to runtime error or segmentation fault.
Yes. So I was going to ask you that you have to take care about all the exceptions or errors you're throwing. So if you can try to avoid it by throwing an exception rather than a runtime error, that'll be great.
All right, so I'll do that later on because I really want to make sure that I spend most of my time implementing the real algorithm behind the problem. I handle exceptions here.
Uh-huh.
So I'll come back to that. So now I have my pre-processing done. I have the end array ready, and I can simply return find score for 0 to n minus 1. And this is a recursive function that I have been talking about.
Mhm.
What it does is basically it takes the starting index, let's call it L, and the ending index. And the job of this recursive function is to get me the score of substring L to R.
Mhm.
So now what's going to happen is nothing but if let's do it this way. So end L is going to give me the location of where the opening bracket for L ends. And now if X is same as R, what we can do is return twice the score of find score um, L to X, sorry, L plus 1 to X minus 1, right? Or we can also say it R minus 1. So we find the score of inner parenthesis and simply double it and return that. Or if that's not the case, what we can do is return find score for L to X and then add that, because here is the concatenation happening, right? So in this way, you can get the score, and I'll just make sure that this is also working fine. because I haven't handled the base cases, right?
Mhm.
So um, if L plus 1 is same as R, so basically you just have like a substring of length 2.
Mhm.
So you can return 1 over here.
Mhm.
Yeah, so this way I think this looks good to me. Let me just think once more. Right. So again, I mean, there are few other base cases, but they will never occur because the string is going to be balanced always. And so basically, this substring will always be of even length and things will be really like working fine. I just need to make sure that the string is balanced and this is going to work. So handling exceptions over here, and what we can say is if st.empty, which means that you do not have any opening bracket, but you encountered a closing bracket. So this
Correct.
means the string is not balanced. So
Yes.
what you can do is throw new exception, and you can say something like string is not balanced. So basically, I'm having a stack which is empty. I iterate on each character. If it's an opening bracket, I push the current index to stack. So stack is having all the locations of opening brackets. And
Mhm.
then whenever I encounter a closing bracket,
Mhm.
I know that it's it's basically the ending bracket for the first member that I have on the stack. So I do the pop and I make sure that I am storing that the xth opening bracket was ending at I, right? So in this for loop, I make sure that for every index, which is an opening bracket, for every such index, I know where it's ending,
Mhm.
right? For indices where there is a closing bracket, of course, end of that doesn't make sense, and that will be 0 because we are not even going to use that. So that information is not needed. So we really do not care about that. And
Mhm.
once I have done that pre-processing, I am calling find score and I'm passing 0 and n-1 over there. And the logic for this find score is really pretty straightforward, I think, because it's taking L and R, and the responsibility is to compute the score of substring L to R,
Mhm.
right? And now in order one time, so this is why I built this. So in order one time, now I know where is it ending, and if it's ending at the end, the like L to R, and the ending is at the end itself, so I can find the score of L plus 1 to R minus 1 and return the double of that. Otherwise I can find, basically otherwise the concatenation is happening, and I think this is going to
Nice.
work.
So you did the entire problem in what complexity? Can you tell me about that? First, the time complexity. First, the time complexity, as you already told about the space.
Right. So I think this is a for loop. This is and all these operations are order one. So this is order n, and
Mhm.
then the find score. It might look like it's using recursion and it's not using dynamic programming or memorization. So the time complexity is really huge, but in fact it's not, because we are making very, we are making very decisive calls about uh, what is the next call that we are going to make. So for every opening index, we are going to call this function once. And because of that, the time complexity also stays as order n.
Yep, that is right. And it will be a multiple of some integer, so it becomes order n for sure. That's right. Do you
Of
think
course.
you can go better than ON for this kind of problem?
So I'm sure that in terms of time, we can't do better. So I think we can do some space optimizations. And I really hate those scenarios in which you do solve the problem, but then the interviewer is like, but there is some particular solution that is in order one. And so that's what you're talking about. Like in terms of space, you want me to do better than order n?
Yes, space. So let's go for a better space complexity because you use the stack, so it's obvious you used ON. So let's see if you
Right.
can go better for that.
I mean, so we definitely can't use recursion for that. So let's delete that.
Mhm.
And we cannot have this end bracket as well because that's taking space.
Mhm.
Let's delete that as well. We can't use tag, so let's delete that. Uh, so the thing is, if you can't even use stack, I really hate such scenarios in which there is some peculiar solution that you have to think. So basically, I can't even use a stack, and I'm iterating on characters.
Mhm.
So let me try something out first.
Mhm.
So let's say if this is the input and I don't want to use any space, how can I find the score for this? which is nothing but 1 plus 2 equal to 3 in this case.
Correct.
So how can I find that without space? Um, okay. So basically, if I can't use any space, then the only thing that I can probably store is how many brackets are opened when I'm iterating. So basically, what I'm trying to say is whenever I end at an ending bracket, I can find out how many opening brackets are there, and that can tell me the multiplication factor for that, which is working. So this will be 1 and this will be 2, right? Yeah, yeah, that can work actually. So yeah, so basically what I'm planning to do is I can actually store how many opening brackets there are currently when I'm traversing the string. And whenever I encounter a closing bracket, right? So I'm definitely sure the previous character of that was an opening bracket. No, that's not true. That's not true actually. Okay, yeah, yeah. Basically, what I'm trying to say is only these are the things that that are actually adding something to the score. The brackets which are after this or something like this, all they are doing is they are responsible for adding the multiplication factor of 2,
Correct. That's true.
right? So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to track these parentheses which are like opening and closing, because this is the thing which is giving me that 1, and
Correct.
then I need to figure out how many times it's going to be multiplied. What is the contribution of this particular parenthesis to the overall score? For example, in our above case, if you talk about this, the contribution for that is 1, but the contribution for this is 2, right? So for every such parenthesis pair, like the smallest unit that you have, for every such pair, if you find their individual contributions and sum it up, probably that can work over here.
Yeah. Let's give a shot.
All right. So what I'm trying to say is let's maintain how many brackets are open right now.
Hmm.
And we can make this simpler as well. So because we can do something like for char C in string S,
Hmm.
or let's call it current.
Hmm.
So if current is an opening bracket, I can say open plus plus. Else, I know that it's a closing bracket. And now, right now, this can become if open is 0, it means you have to throw an exception.
Yeah.
Otherwise, again, there will be one more like if the previous character was opening bracket, right? So basically, you can also have char previous, which is initially empty,
Hmm.
and after the iteration we are going to store current in previous. So we have access to the previous character, and what I can say is if previous character was nothing but an opening parenthesis, so I know that this is the smallest unit now, and I just want to like count the contribution of this particular bracket to the overall answer. So what I can say is answer plus equal to um, 2 star open, because that is going to be the contributing factor um, of this parenthesis.
Hmm.
So we need an answer which is 0 initially, or let's do it in single line. We do not need this. Um, so what's going to happen? It's actually open minus 1, and we can simply return the answer over here. So it's fitting in one screen. I'm happy about that. Uh, but it's a significant, I think, improvement in terms of space complexity, but also the number of lines have reduced as well.
Yep. And
So I think this is going to work.
what's the reason behind open
Just
minus one?
actually, there is a problem right now. Like I also have to decrement, right? I am not doing that right now.
Yeah.
So if this is an opening bracket, open plus plus, good job. If open is 0, doesn't make sense how you have encountered a closing bracket when there is nothing opened. That's also fine. And if previous is something like this, you can do this, right? Or what you can do is over here you can say open minus minus. because now one of the opening brackets have reduced, and now how many are remaining, the contribution of that is added to the answer. So yeah, now it's going to work.
Yep. So yes, that's the solution I was looking for. So thank you so much, Rachit. I think you did a phenomenal job, and the feedback will be provided to you by the HR over phone call within the next 1 to 2 weeks. So as you can see, the clothes have changed, and now I'm back with round two of Rachit's interview because I was satisfied with his performance, but I want to test his more abilities in the real world programming scenario because data structures and algorithms is okay to one point, but I really want to see his real world knowledge of how he applies his data structure and algorithm knowledge in real world problems. So let's try. Yep.
हाँ, और मैं एक चीज और बोलना चाहूंगा, अब मैं थोड़ा हिंदी में भी बात करूंगा क्योंकि मेरा बहुत मन भी था कि मतलब मैं अब मेरा पूरा इंग्लिश चैनल बेस्ड, मेरा चैनल इंग्लिश बेस्ड था, तो मेरे को ये भी बढ़िया लगता है कि यार यहाँ पे तो हिंदी में बात कर सकते हैं। चलो शुरू करो।
हाँ चलो ठीक है. Imagine stock market. So, right, let me type. I cannot type. Can you give me write permissions?
You have right permissions, but you are using the amazing font color of pink.
So, imagine I give you an array with 30 days of stock market data.
Mm-hmm.
So, like array 0 will have a stock price, let's say $5.
Okay.
That's of day 0, and then day 1 it is $10. So it's it keeps increasing, decreasing. It can do whatever it wants to, and it
Okay.
will have like its own curve. Like sometimes kabhi zyada kabhi kam. So it's like a bell curve. The stock market curve could be of any shape. You know how stock
Got it.
market works. Now
Right.
I want you to calculate maximum profit.
Mm-hmm.
So you can buy it required, given that you can buy it on any day and sell it on any day, but you have to go in order. It's not like you buy it on day 30 and sell it on day 0. That's not how a month works. So you have to go in order. And
Although we do have such kind of options as well, like you can short sell, and that's something that I learned while I was working in a fintech company. But yeah, for this question, I understand we can only buy and only then we can sell, right?
yes, so I want you to make all the cases. I mean, I'll not give you any hint, but just do the way you want to. So let's see.
Got it. So, if I can ask, what is the size of the array that you're expecting?
30. So assume the days are
30 days.
30 days.
Got it.
Mhm.
All right. So we just have 30 entries and we just have to point two indexes, I and j, so that we maximize R of j minus R of I, right?
Mhm.
Where j is greater than I,
Mhm.
right? This is what we want to return.
Correct.
So basically it's something like int find max profit and you have a vector of int of prices.
Correct.
This makes sense, right?
Yes.
All right. Um, I mean, if it's such a small size, I think it's very straightforward to run a double for loop and compare all the scenarios, right? And we return the maximum one.
Yeah, sure. Go for it. Let's see.
So basically, so um, something like this. So I'm running a double for loop and j will always be greater than I. So j is I plus 1
Mhm.
and j is less than prices dot size as well and j plus plus.
Mhm.
So I'm considering that I want to buy at I day I
Mhm.
and sell at day j.
DJ, that J. Oh, okay. DJ, DJ. Okay.
So in this way, you will compare all the scenarios and you will return the max value. So you can say that answer is max of current answer, comma, prices of j minus prices of I. And one question that I want to ask is, let's say if the stock price is always decreasing, at that point of time, it doesn't make sense to, even buy or sell at least once. So is there any requirement that you definitely have to do it once or something like that?
Yes, that is for sure. You have to, but I mean, in the real world, like I will recommend you to either sell it or buy it depending on the profit. But for this problem, just assume you have to calculate the max profit. And to maximize, so let's say that the stock market is decreasing. What you have to do is buy it on day zero and sell it off on day one itself.
Right. No,
Right.
that depends, right? That depends. Like, um,
Uh,
I just want to minimize my loss. So
yeah.
it depends.
Yeah. So you have to remember that selling. So if you put in the data, you have to get day zero, day one minus day zero. That will be the maximum profit. It will be lost. It will be a negative value, but it will be at least
So
maximum.
basically, the question I'm clarifying the requirement. So requirement is get max profit by
Mhm.
performing exactly one buy and sell transaction.
Yes. From user point of view, I'm just giving you user requirements, and developer requirements could be any. Yeah.
Okay. So we have to perform exactly one by performing exactly one buy and sell transaction, right?
Mhm.
Got it. So as I'm saying that the initialization of answer can be int underscore min. Sorry. Yeah. And then we can finally return the answer. So I have considered all pairs like I is iterating on all indices, J is for all possible days on which I can sell for every I. So I've considered all pairs and this will give you the right answer.
Okay. And can you iterate through the loop if I give you, if the entire stock market is going down, so how it'll give you day zero and day one as the answer, like returning those two.
Yeah, so basically what you are saying is if array is something like 300, then let's say 290
Mhm.
or 250, and then let's say 100 and 98, for example.
Mhm.
So as I was saying that it's not always day one and day zero. In this case, the max profit would be for day three and day four,
Mm,
right?
that is
So
correct. Yes. Good catch. I even confused you that the answer would be day zero, day one, but you caught it.
right,
Yeah.
right. Because you have to overall check which is that diff pair which gives you or yields the maximum profit.
Uh-huh. You got it. And because it's a nested for loop, irrespective of, let's say that if it's like 300 and then 299.5 and 299.1, 291.6 later, then you will
Right.
know that it's 0 and 3. I mean, you can write
Exactly,
it
because
down.
I'm
Yeah.
exactly I'm considering all pairs. So this is like the nothing can be better than this. Like
Yeah.
it is correct, but the time complexity is of course very minimal because it's just 30 days of data. However, if it grows, you can probably think of better solutions as well.
So thank you so much, Rajat. And even in fact, this video was entirely inspired by Rajat. He recommended me, he suggested me, and it means a lot to me. And you will find numerous, a lot of quality mock interviews and also data structures and his algorithms knowledge on his channel. And I have been following up since my first year on his channel as well. So he has helped me a lot in my college career as well. So thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. And I'll leave the link of the follow up. I mean, he interviewing me in the description below. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that was really amazing. I feel.
Yeah.